Whoever will take over next year after the 2022 elections, as the manufacturing sector, what you are hearing generally, does it give you a sense of hope that that 15% target, depending on what is implemented, could become a reality? Or is there more that you want to hear to be convinced that, whatever they're promising will get us on the right track?
First, I want to say that I'm grateful to see that the thought process is around an inclusive economy, looking at inclusivity in the economic growth progress, and that's a good thing. We've had a theme around women empowerment and inclusion, knowing that at least world over we are at least 50 to 51% of the population. So it's only prudent that we imagine how can women also take up the same equal space in terms of decision making, and also being highest consumers. They decide so much on what is consumed in the world, in the economy, nurturing families. They're interested in protection of their families and growth. So that's a good agenda. There's SMEs that has come through without really saying who said it, but all of them seem to be interested in SME growth. Of course, for us, we already know there's many policies on women agenda. There are policies on MSMEs. The latest one, the MSC policy that is out, really a lot has been thought through. We're expecting them to see how they can implement that, put funds into in their budgeting process into how they support implementation of existing policies. These policies have been done with a lot of consultation. So really, there's nothing new being said about the plans ahead. They're there, they're well documented. We just want a very clear implementation plan that is well financed and institutions given the support to deliver on their mandate. The other theme that I've heard coming through, of course, is the sectors of the economy that they want to revamp, like agriculture. I think that's a good agenda. We have a strong agricultural strategy that was launched some 2-3 years ago. But then where is the impact? Who's measuring the results? And we know very well, like last year, we had a net import of agricultural produce from Uganda, a country like Uganda or even Tanzania. So really, we are not doing well in terms of agricultural output, not just for our own consumption, but also to get into agro-processing. So we have different value chains that are really getting extinct. You can see the cotton value chain is almost extinct. We have to import cotton. We're importing too much raw materials from that agricultural sector. So I think that agenda is good. It just needs proper implementation strategies are there. That is one thing about Kenya that we are proud of as come. But then how are they consolidated? Because there's a lot of duplication in some of these policies and different institutions doing similar things. So there's conflicts around who does what and who achieves what. So if there can be a bit of harmonization with the institutions, reducing duplication of efforts, and of course cutting down on the costs that are there, empowering these institutions to deliver. So we are hoping that they can also bring up accountability measures. How can they reduce things like corruption, wastage in public expenditure? Those conversations will be good for us to hear so that we are operating optimally with existing resources. And then how do we then attract innovations into the country and partnerships with different, I heard about trading with Europe, trading with Asia, trading in Africa. Those are opportunities for partnerships to whether invest or trade with each other. How do they grow those trade relations and economic diplomacies across the different regimes that are there for trading, whether it's the African continent or a free trade area? Negotiations ongoing with AGOA. How do we optimize? We only do about currently in the current AGOA strategy, only about 6,000 products out of so many products that we should be able to export, and it's very minimal. And the challenges is the competitiveness, cost competitiveness in terms of how we trade with the rest. The European markets, education, I haven't heard much about education, but there was a theme around youth. There's a very strong youth policy that was also launched with very good ideas and generally strategies on how to empower the youth.
We have launched policies around everything.
Yes, they are there actually.
Plans are there.
Let's implement them to the letter. Let's involve all stakeholders in this implementation.
Tell me one thing before I allow Ken to win. I can see him itching to share his thoughts on some of those promises made out there. You raised the question of how will we be able to monitor what whoever gets into office will have done to see whether they achieved that which they promised. So let's talk about realities. How do we monitor that person so-and-so said that they'll do this, and what sort of tools can we use? So if somebody promises that they'll take manufacturing to 15%, What does 15% manufacturing contribution to GDP look like in terms of jobs, for example? What does that look like? You know, we keep throwing those numbers out there, but reality, quote unquote, qua ground, for lack of a better word, what does that look like?
And that's why we're saying, let's first, okay, one aspect is, can their manifestos be very clear with measurable terms, activities that, you know, not just open statements, which are good for political rallies and others, but on paper, how do we make sure that the strategies are very clear on roles and responsibilities, accountability measures, also numbers that we can track, and then maybe quarterly meetings on tracking progress, and then working backwards. And I like that. We've been asking ourselves, getting to 15%, what are those game changers? What are those things that we need that can just, you know, transform these numbers? And because we are going backwards as much as our ambitions are forward, something is not right. And without really belaboring on taxation issues, but other kind of incentives and innovations, technological advancements that we can bring in. And I must tell Joy that actually some industries are highly technological in terms of their systems and production systems. We have robots in Kenya now. There are some industries already using robotics. So really young people need to be told they can be as ambitious as they want. So if you're looking at youth policy, the existing youth policy implementation strategy.
At the end of the day,
yes.
Let me